The Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and your local cable provider presents Cable Reports. Join us now as Cable Reports brings you up to date on current issues facing the Commonwealth through discussions with your local legislators and other policymakers from across Virginia.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We're real pleased to have two powerful members from Southside, one from the Senate, one from the House of Delegates, both chairmen. Chairman Bill Stanley, good to see you, sir.
Great to see you again, Woody.
Chairman Danny Marshall, good to see you.
Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to do this. I thank you for this service. I hear from people back home that they like to look at you and to see. And
no,
but
it's Bill, I think.
I think
it's you,
this is a good public service to get information to people back home.
Well, thank you for being here and congratulations. You are a new chairman. Talk to us about that committee and your duties and responsibilities.
Well, I have been a chairman for 2 meetings so far, so it's not like it's gone on a long time. I chair the House Agricultural, Chesapeake, and Natural Resources. I've been on that committee for about 8 years. Before I chaired the Agricultural Committee. And so we hear things that, just as it says, agricultural in my part of the state, Pittsylvania County, the #1 and #2 industry. #1 is ag, #2 is forestry, so it's a big piece of our economic puzzle. The other is Chesapeake. We don't quite fit into that Chesapeake, but so that's kind of a learning curve for me, what actions that we take that affect the Bay. And the other is natural resources that I do have some prior knowledge to, and James Edmonds from over in Halifax County is the chair of that committee and mostly deals with the issues that relate to DEQ, but also hunting.
And tell us a little bit about those committee meetings. I know we were talking earlier and you've had some presentations. You're always in the process of educating yourself and your members. Talk to us about some of those presentations.
So what I did early on is to ask actually someone from Pittsylvania County to come and do a presentation on the commodity checkoff programs. And people think that they are a tax, but it's really a self-imposed fee. And you may have seen the commercials on TV, got milk, or either pork, the other white meat. Well, they are, what happens with those is the farmers get together and impose a self-tax that the state of Virginia collects, and 100% of that money is held in a fund, and then the fund is set up for promotion or for research or that type of things. And so we have one for almost every known commodity thing that we grow in the state of Virginia. We hadn't got one for hemp yet, but I'm sure there probably will be one coming up soon.
And Mr. Chairman, local government, talk to us a little bit about your jurisdiction and the kinds of legislation you see.
Well, local government, the Senate Committee on Local Government, we have one, of course, in the House of Delegates as well, but I'm honored to serve as the chairman, was elected by the Senate to do so. I've had 2 meetings as well. We usually focus on local government issues, charter bills, bills that may affect localities, whether they can raise taxes on certain things or not. One of the bills we're having that's kind of exciting is this Airbnb, where the Airbnb is basically to allow you to rent out your house in a transient basis. That is a short-term rental, much like a hotel, but it's in residential areas. So one of the challenges is how can you allow a business like that, where the zoning at the local level might affect their ability to do so. So that's some of the challenges we face. But anything that has to do at the local level, at the local governing level, that's what we deal with. So it's a great committee. Sometimes, a charter bill is not the most inspirational or exciting thing to deal with, but they're very important to the locality. So we try all the time to make sure that every locality is served, that their voices are heard, and that we make the right decisions on those bills that head to the floor when they pass out of our committee.
As I recall, last year, the technology du jour, so to speak, was Uber, and that was debated. And I guess these new technologies are going to continue to arise. It's a good thing, but we have to write new rules, apparently.
Absolutely, because we're also talking about entrepreneurial businesses, self-employment. You can now turn your car into a taxi, and now you can turn your house into a hotel based on electronic technology and the internet. But we also have to make sure that, like with Uber, that we're taking care of the people that are in the back of the car, that they're safe, and then we're also taking care of the public at the same time, making sure that free market competition allows other forms of commercial transportation to thrive. The same with this. Our concern is, of course, we have traditional hotels, we have bed and breakfasts, and certainly we have neighbors that may have bought their house and want to keep their home values, that didn't buy the house with the expectation that they were going to have a hotel next door to them. And those people that usually come into those areas, they don't maybe treat that house in the way that they would treat their own residents. So those are a lot of challenges that we're facing right now, and I hope we can find a resolution in protecting the homeowner, protecting the one that wants to have a business like that, and of course moving forward in revenues that can be generated for the localities.
Danny, can you talk to us about the challenges that Southside still faces? As we know, the economic downturn in 2007 occurred, but you've had problems well before that.
It started all the way back to NAFTA when Ross Perot.
North American Free Trade Agreement.
That's right, but Ross Perot got it right. He said it was going to be this giant sucking sound of jobs, and you could stand on Main Street of Danville, Main Street in Martinsville, and you could hear that sucking sound, and where it just turned our economy upside down. So this happened back in the late 90s. And so, we hadn't been fighting this since the Great Recession. It was a Great Recession started in Southside Virginia back again in the late 90s. You had Danville, for example. You had two Fortune 500 companies. You had Dimble Brothers Tobacco Company that was headquarters there. You had Dan River that had 12,000 employees, has zero today. Over in Martinsville, Henry County, you had Toltex, you had a lot, Bassett Walker, et cetera, all those companies. And so the Dan River people tell me they make cloth like this, that 20% of the cost of that cloth was labor. And so they could go to offshore and didn't want to go offshore, but to compete, they had to go offshore because of the cheap imports was coming in. So what we have been doing, luckily that, we have the Tobacco Commission.
Yes.
So Senator Stanley and I serve on that commission, and we have those resources that we're trying to prime the pump, so to speak, with industrial sites. We have a new industrial site that is almost graded. It's called Commonwealth Crossing. It's in Henry County, right at the Virginia-Carlisle line. It's probably will be finished grading by the spring. And the reason we did that, we have another site in Pennsylvania called Berry Hill. It's 3,500 acres of land. The reason we did that, and the Tobacco Commission funded a lot of that, is because VW came through our area and looked for the new plant that's now in Tennessee. We did not have a site large enough graded. So when a company comes, they want a graded site that all the utilities are there. It's ready to start. So if they announce on Friday, then next week they could go ahead and start construction. They don't have to start moving dirt, getting permits and whatnot. So that's the reason we did this. Now, the expectation is that as soon as you build this, you're going to have a company show up. The one in Tennessee, we want someone to show up, pretty quick. But the one in Tennessee set for 10 years before, a company showed up. Now, I think that our timing is right. Hopefully, that economy is maybe turning up. It seems like it may. The stock market doesn't seem to say so this year, but we are ready. And so you have to have those resources are ready to start. So the economic developer in Henry County tell me that the phone's ringing because of that site.
Great, and I take it that there are some bright spots, and you're anticipating some businesses moving in. We talked about robotics off camera before we began. Tell us about that.
Well, I think Danny and I both agree, and I think the modalities that we're using is making sure we're getting a workforce ready. And I think that's what the companies are looking for when they're coming into our area. What kind of certification programs do we have? What kind of educational, secondary education? How are we training our high school students to be workforce ready? And so we're focused on that to make sure that we're going to have that workforce that that company is going to want. It's as important as having a graded site, is having the workforce that's ready. And we've been right now spending on public education $120,000 to $140,000 to educate one child from K through 12. One child. So that's both a combination of tax and local dollars. But those children can't find a job here. So they go in our area, so they have to go out elsewhere. Well, it's a great investment for our children, but that tax dollar that we invest is going somewhere else. So what we've got to do is not only train them, but have the jobs for them. And so it's important, STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. We don't have some of the outlets and the disciplines that, say, Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads and Richmond has. So one of my bills tries to create a STEM program at the high school level where we can use grant money from private interests to fund STEM labs or to bring STEM teachers in that can teach those disciplines at the high school level to make them workforce ready. Additionally, what I've seen is in other counties in Northern Virginia and Richmond, the robotics teams that they have. Now, we have some robotics teams in our areas, but you're seeing those children, and robotics is basically building a robot machine and then competing against other schools. That can be very expensive, but every child that gets in there is learning about engineering and mathematics in a way that carries them on to the next level of education in college. Every student I talk to that's in the robotics team, I ask them what they're going to do next, and they say, well, I'm finishing my application to MIT or to Harvard or to Yale, Princeton or UVA. And so that really creates opportunities, I think, makes them interested in what is the new manufacturing, the advanced manufacturing, the precision machine tools that those new manufacturers are going to come in. If we can provide that to those industries, a workforce-ready pupil, and do it in mass, then that's going to be one thing. Along with those industrial sites, it's going to make a big.
Great. Go ahead.
Let me just follow up with that. I think it's all important. In the economic development puzzle, you got to have the sites, you got to have transportation. I know Senator Stanley's been working hard on I-73, but workforce is the most important thing. It's up to people. I mean, companies can decide that they want to go anywhere. Like Volkswagen, they went to Tennessee because of the site, but also it's also the workforce. It's the workforce is what is the people that make that company successful. So we have to make our people, with additional skills so that they are trained for the jobs of the future. The chancellor of the community college calls it the 1-2-7. In advanced manufacturing, the one is one person that needs a 4-year degree or higher. Then you need 2 employees that need either a 4-year degree or 2-year degree. But then there's 7 who need a certificate, a 2-year degree, etc. And most of those come from community college. So we really need, in the economic developers will tell you, there's plenty of 1s, there's plenty of 2s out there. It's the 7s. We have to work on those 7s and find those 7 people for every 2 or either 1 so that we can get those jobs in the future. The jobs of the past are not going to be the same as the jobs of the future. So he's 100% right. Workforce is important.
Now, does the Tobacco Commission provide for any scholarships or student loans to people?
We do and have for a number of years. Again, Senator Stanley and I both serve on there. Are you on the Education Committee?
Yes.
All right, so maybe he'll speak about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We've always had a scholarship program for those within the tobacco footprint, for those children of tobacco growers. We certainly usually fill up all of those scholarships every year. They're very competitive. And we have a very high success rate with the Tobacco Commission on those that enjoy those scholarships, use those scholarships, and go on to higher education. So all of that is trying to raise the level of education that everybody in our area not only can have, but it can aspire to do, to make sure that there's not a 10-foot wall in front of them that keeps them from achieving the American dream. Because of our area, Woody, the average household income in our area is $28,000.
28,000?
28,000. That's a family of four. In Virginia, the average is 63,000. That's statewide. In Northern Virginia, it's almost 100,000. So we're already dealing from a position where a lot of families can't afford to put their kids through school. And so immediately after high school, they have to go look for a job. And then once again, like we talked about, the jobs may not be there, so they have to leave our area to go find full employment and then maybe put off college till later. We want to make sure that that opportunity for college is right away, and that's what the Tobacco Commission does. We also want to make sure that we understand that not everybody's college ready. That maybe not everybody's meant to go get an undergraduate degree or go to a liberal arts school. So those certification programs that Delegate Marshall is talking about, the Tobacco Commission supports advanced manufacturing, centers of excellence, to make sure that when that person decides for themselves, they have opportunities and choices. And you go get a certification, you're not making $10 an hour.
Right.
You're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Plus, you can build on that to where you're making a per capita income for your family that's equal to Northern Virginia. And that's what we're working hard in making sure we're creating those opportunities. So that 10-foot wall is brought down. And so every child in our area can see the American dream and can achieve it.
And one follow up on that, just one thing as far as machining. In Danville and Pittsylvania County, they have a machining program. So there's a 2-year certificate from Danville Community College, and 100% of those young men and women get jobs. And we're talking about starting salaries of $18 to $20 an hour. And so, you know, some of these young people are making $50,000, $60,000 a year. So these jobs are paying extremely good wages for our part of the state, and so that's what we're all about. Is we want to get those jobs, but we also want to raise the level of living for our people. Because I go back to when I was first elected. Governor Warner invited then Delegate Hurt and I over to Henry County to a company called Pilatex. And Pilatex was a company that they announced to the workers while we were there they were shutting it down. And you could see the fear in those people's faces about how am I going to provide for my family, how am I going to put a roof over their head, how am I going to put food on the table. And so, of no fault of their own, they were doing a good job. But so that's what we're all about, is trying to bring prosperity back to our part of the state.
But when you're talking to a potential employer like a VW or even someone smaller, what kinds of positive things do you tell them about locating in Southside?
Well, at first it's very easy because, I've lived all over the state. I lived in Virginia Beach in the 70s, in the late 70s, 80s, and 90s in Northern Virginia, returned home into the Southside in early 2000. So I've seen the whole state, so it's easy for me to give you a perspective that our place is the best place to live, work, play, raise a family. I mean, when you go down there, the rural area, the nature of the people, we still wave at each other when we pass each other on the street in our cars. We even wave at each other if we're on the riding lawnmower and you drive by. That's how friendly we are. And two, you still have that rural feel and that kind of charm that comes with, that family atmosphere. But we also have the ability to rise up because we were the leader, the economic driver of Virginia with tobacco, textile manufacturing, and coal. So it's not like something new. We can start again very quickly, and we have been, and we're working brick by brick to build that new foundation. We don't suffer from, in Northern Virginia and Virginia Beach suffers from, which is the problem of dependency on the federal government. We stand ready with a diversified economy to grow quickly, and once we're building the workforce as we're talking about, then they'll come. The other thing that Danny was talking about is infrastructure. A lot of the companies like the fact that we're working hard to build infrastructure such as Interstate 73. If we can build that interstate, which we will build that interstate, right through the North Carolina line, Martinsville, Henry County, Franklin County, Roanoke. We will join North Carolina and South Carolina and 3 deep water ports. It will create 48 to 53,000 permanent jobs in our region. Plus it will allow those industrial companies to take their goods to market, to foreign markets, the connectivity to the global marketplace, and also to the interior of the United States. So when they know that we're excited and we're taking these bold steps, and we're not just talking about them, but we're doing them, then they're coming here because they know if we're investing in our future, they're going to invest their future in us.
He actually answered the next question I was going to answer, and that was, how do you tie the Port of Virginia into your transportation needs? And he answered it, but I want you to expound on that a little.
Well, if you look at, I have House Joint Resolution number 99, and what this is about is called an inland port. The state of Virginia has an inland port
Fort-
up in
Front
Front Royal.
Royal.
Right. And what this inland port, for the citizens watching, you see the containers on the back of trucks, either 20-foot containers or 40-foot containers. And so what the inland port in Northern Virginia does is that they have a location that manufacturers from probably a 100-mile radius will bring those containers to this site, and then they have 2 trains a day that take these containers to the port and ship them all over the world. Now, the reverse also from raw materials or either other pieces of a manufacturing process come to the port and they ship them to Front Royal, and then they go out to manufacturers. So what I have this HJ99 will do is to look in our part of the state as far as putting an inland port. And so what it will do for a couple of reasons is it will make us a little bit more competitive as far as manufacturers who either ship out of the port or either receive material in. So it makes it a little bit easier for those companies to import or export.
Now, what kind of rail facilities are in Southside? What kind of opportunities are there?
Well, you know, again, with the tobacco textile manufacturing, we have the rail. And of course, we have the centerpiece, which is Roanoke, which was Norfolk Southern's hub. So it's all there. It's just making sure that we have a reason for those rails to be used, which is the product ingress and egress, as Delegate Marshall is talking about. So we've got the pieces. We need that interstate. But we're already connected from Route 58 to Martinsville and Danville to our port in Virginia, our Virginia port. But a lot of their product right now is going not this direction, and that's why Danny's bill is a great bill. It's going to Greensboro, because right now their infrastructure is a little more advanced. We need to not only catch up but pass them, because we're in competition by our border with North Carolina. So we've got to not only be perfect, we've got to be better than them. And so those are the kind of things we need to be thinking about. Rail, infrastructure and highway, making sure that we are connected to the global marketplace. And I-73 will connect us to 3 deepwater ports in Wilmington, North Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia. We'll have it all covered, and we will be the place to live, work, play, and raise a family.
Danny, talk to us about agribusiness. In fact, that is the leading industry, I believe, in the Commonwealth.
Well, it's the leading industry in the Commonwealth, but also the Pennsylvania County got Weldon Cooper to do a survey, and it's a leading, ag is #1 and forestry is #2 in Pennsylvania County. So it is a big piece of our economic puzzle, and we work again with Tobacco Commission. We provide grants for them for new innovative products. We just approved one for the wine industry is a large industry. There is a shortage of grapes, that not all the wine producers grow their own grapes. So even the ones who do grow their own grapes are not being, they don't grow enough grapes. So Tobacco Commission, we funded a project in Pennsylvania County for farmers to supplement with growing grapes. So we are always trying to come up with new innovative ideas for that family farm to expand. You know, they used to make it on tobacco, but it's not there anymore. And so they have gone to poultry, they have gone to grapes. We approved last year about the hemp, so that that's being in the process of being worked on. So we're always looking for new markets to go. You know, thankfully we have one of our own, Todd Haymore, who is the Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry. Todd is working hard. Talked to him last night about some of the products that they are selling overseas, and again, it's all, we're not have one avenue as far as economic development. It's a number of avenues for economic development,
including timber, which is part and parcel of your jurisdiction now.
Absolutely. Again, forestry is #2, and so it is a large piece of our puzzle. A lot of that goes offshore, but the housing market is down right now. So if that housing market comes back, it will even expand even more.
You also have a wealth of private institutions, educational institutions in your district. Talk to us about those.
Well, we have, I think, it all. We have private institutions. We have colleges like Ferrum College. We have a great community college system with Danville Community College and Patrick Henry Community College. We have the New College Institute with Delegate Marshall and I sit on. And we're always trying to innovate and make sure that we're doing things to create educational opportunities for everybody there, just like I talked about. No matter what your zip code, no matter what your station in life, that there's something there that can allow you that if you're at or below the poverty level, break that cycle and achieve. If you have hopes and dreams and you want to achieve that dream, that those tools are there for that person to achieve that dream, to be anything that they want to be, just as America promises us all. But the great thing is that they're all working together. The Institute for Advanced Learning, we're all starting to really work together on the things that we think are important to make sure we have a highly educated workforce and allow people to achieve their dreams. So we're very proud of the system we have. We like to think of it as the best in the Commonwealth.
Telemedicine, that's something else that you've been actively involved in over the years.
We have a problem in rural areas with rural health care. Most of the people live 70, 80, 90 miles away from a doctor or a hospital. Of course, with the per capita income being as low, the costs can be daunting, so some people won't treat themselves when they're feeling ill. So when they present at the emergency rooms, they may be acute with diabetes or COPD or something like that, which is a high level of cost and maybe a low level of return to the hospital. And then do they treat and do they manage their care? What telemedicine, proposed a telemedicine pilot program for rural areas, is allows the best and the brightest doctors, which may not live in our area, to be able to treat people in our area in a patient-centered medical home, a collaborative effort with a primary care physician and other disciplines to make sure that we look at preventative care, manage the care they have, and make sure they're getting the best diagnoses and at critical times, but through their lives so they're invested in their own care. That way, we manage their care, we improve their outcomes, and in turn, it will lower the cost of care, which will make it more affordable. But they're not getting, we don't have a plethora of specialists in our area, but they're specialists in the Commonwealth, but that by using the internet or the telephone and other modalities, they can come right into that person's home that may live in the coal fields and be able to diagnose them, give them some advice, or send them to somebody that can help them.
Foundation, of course, is K through 12. How are your local school districts faring?
They're doing okay. They are, always have room for improvement. I think that, if you look at the graduation rate, it's going up. If you look at the, as far as the standards of learning is moving forward. So we have a new superintendent in Danville. We have a new superintendent in Pennsylvania County, and they are working hard. We have a problem, because of all the job loss we have. So we got a lot of young children who need that, who's probably is not the same as when we were in school.
Exactly.
So they have.
Speak for yourself. I just got out.
Yeah, it's been it was last century for me. They have some issues to deal with that were not issues when we were there. But we realize that they are our future. So we have to work to make sure that they succeed.
30 seconds, I'll give you the last word on the local school districts.
Well, our local schools, one of the best things that we have are our teachers and the dedication that they really put into making sure our children are well educated and taken care of. I have all my children in public school. I'm a product of public school. I believe in public school. What we have to do is be more efficient with the dollars we give them.
Great. Thank you for being here, Senator Bill Stanley and Delegate Danny Marshall. Good to see you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the Virginia Cable Telecommunications Association and Comcast. Until next time, I am Woody Evans. Mm-hmm.